Welcome back to Ben's Thoughts. And when I was a kid, rip-offs didn't rhyme with the things they were ripping off. Welcome back once again to Looney Tunes month. Since Looney Tunes was created, it has had a big impact on not just the world of animation, but pop culture in general. Years of airing on TV and cartoons being released on DVD has helped expose the cartoons to several new generations, and the cartoons have become fully appreciated as great filmmaking. However, Looney Tunes has had the biggest impact on animation itself. Several animators have been inspired by Looney Tunes to create their own creations. And other animators lack creativity, so they just use the Looney Tunes characters and put them in different formats. Then, there are the animators that fall in between. They create shows that have their own characters, but they're practically clones of the Looney Tunes characters. These are what I like to call Looney Tunes spin-offs. There is a handful of these cartoons out there. Some were good, some were okay, some were just plain awful. So today, I'm going to give my thoughts on the shows that have been created that are based on the Looney Tunes characters. So, sit back and get ready for even more looniness. Here is my thoughts on the Looney Tunes spin-offs. Before I go over specific shows, I have to get certain rules across that would make the cartoons count as Looney Tunes spin-offs. First, the show could star a Looney Tunes character or a number of Looney Tunes characters. Second, the show could star different characters, but they feature frequent cameos by the Looney Tunes characters. Third, the show could not feature the Looney Tunes at all, but star characters that act exactly like the Looney Tunes characters. Alright, let's get started. We're going back to the earliest Looney Tunes spin-off I can think of, and that cartoon is Taz-Mania. I remember watching this show a lot as a kid when Cartoon Network aired reruns of it. Does this show hold up? Well, let's take a look. In this show, Taz lives with his family. Whoa! Stop right there! Taz has a family? Of all the cartoon characters you can think of that could have a family, is Taz the one that comes to your mind? Well, he sure as heck doesn't come to my mind. I could imagine Daffy having a family. I could imagine Roadrunner having a family. I could even imagine Witch Hazel having a family. But Taz having a family? I'm sorry, I just don't buy that. So anyway, this show follows Taz and his family as they live in Tasmania, Australia. They end up in several misadventures due to all the other creatures that live in Tasmania are always messing with them. This show was broken up into two 11-minute cartoons that made up a whole episode, so the format could fit the Looney Tunes criteria if done right. It's not done right here. There is a few problems I have with this show. For starters, out of all the Looney Tunes characters you could make a show out of, Taz just seems like the less likely choice. No, I'm not saying Taz is a bad character. He's an awesome character. It's just that his character only works in small doses. Believe it or not, Taz only appeared in 5 original Looney Tunes cartoons. That's it. You can only do so much with a character that just destroys everything before it gets old. So, to spell it out, Taz is a character that isn't meant to have a 65-episode series based off of him. However, you would hope my speculations would be wrong. Well, that is until you watch a couple of episodes. This leads to my second problem with the show. Taz doesn't do anything! I'm serious! In the episode I watch, all he does is just sit there, make noises, and that's about it. Sure, there are times where he has to defend himself against his foes, but that doesn't make up for all the times he just sits there and does nothing. In one episode I watched, he had to spend the entire day with his mom, and all he did was just sit there with an annoyed look on his face. I felt sorry for him. It's like he doesn't want to be in this show. My third problem is the family. Good dumplings, I hate Taz's family. Why? Because there is not much to them. They're the exact same family we've seen in every single other show. Mom is the kind, good-natured mom. Dad is the tough and dependable dad. Brother is the annoying little brother. And the sister is the annoying teenage sister. My gosh, this family raised Taz? No wonder why he's so destructible. I'm surprised he hasn't eaten them all yet. Finally, the secondary characters are funnier and more interesting than Taz and his family. I'm serious. The Kiwi is funny, the two alligator hunters are funny, and Taz's boss is funny. Why isn't this show about them? This just shows that even the show's writers knew that Taz wasn't good enough for his own show, so they added all these other characters to balance him out. This show did contain Looney Tunes style humor, but it ironically came out of the secondary characters and not from Taz, the actual Looney Tunes character on this show. It's funny how that works. Bottom line, this show is just an uninspired piece of work. Taz does nothing for a lot of this show, and his family should be in a dictionary under the words bland and cliched. However, the secondary characters help balance this show out and make it worth a look if you're a Looney Tunes fan. Just don't expect anything spectacular. Plus, did I mention the theme song is catchy? Up next is Tiny Toons. Due to the success of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Warner Brothers wanted Steven Spielberg to oversee the production of a new cartoon show that would pay tribute to the classic Looney Tunes cartoons. So, Tom Ruegger was brought in with a bunch of comedic writers and producers, and Tiny Toons Adventures was born. This cartoon follows the adventures of the Tiny Toons, which are a new breed of cartoon characters that are taught at Acme University by the Looney Tunes characters to help them become the next big cartoon stars. Everybody knows about this show, but if you're too young to know, you're on the internet, look it up. Anyway, since 99.99% of cartoons fans know about this show, I won't go into detail, so I'll just get on with giving my thoughts on it. Well, if you're a diehard fan that's able to sit through my old videos, you would know that this is one of my favorite animated shows of all time, and for good reason. This is quite possibly the best tribute to Looney Tunes that I've ever seen done on TV. For starters, the animation is beautiful. Seeing as how it's done by the Japanese, there's no doubt that it's going to be good. But it's not just good, it captures the look of classic Warner Brothers cartoons, while still looking like it was done at the time it was made. Next, the format on the show fits perfectly. Mostly, an episode consists of 3 7-minute shorts that star the Tiny Toons. However, there are some episodes that go the full 22-minute length, but they still manage to feel like a Looney Tunes cartoon. Third, the characters are amazing. They may share a lot of their personalities with their Looney Tunes counterparts, but they also have more to them. For example, Hampton has Porky Pig's straight guy persona, but he likes to gobble up a bunch of food. That's something new. And finally, what many people remember about this show, the humor. This was one of the few cartoons at that time to have humor that catered more for adults than it did for children. The writing is top-notch, with many episodes poking fun at cartoony gags, breaking the fourth wall, and the parodies of pop culture. I know I'm against pop culture references in cartoons, but it's done so well in this show that you don't have to know what they're making fun of to laugh. It helps, but you still laugh. However, Tiny Toons isn't without its flaws. For starters, some of the characters act nothing like their Looney Tunes counterpart. For example, Elmira Duff is an obsessive animal lover, while Elmer Fudd was a hunter. That change is annoying, but I can understand why they did it. A little girl hunting animals is just creepy. This also leads to my next problem with this show, Elmira. I freaking hate this character. She is so annoying that every time she pops up in an episode, I facepalm myself. I don't know what it is I don't like about her, but I just hate seeing her treat characters I like the way she does. The only positive to her character is enjoying the few moments where she gets hurt. I cheer when that happens. My last negative is this show's episodes are hit and miss. Some of the episodes are funny, and some weren't. The ones that weren't really weren't. However, that's what it's like for every show. No show is perfect, so every show is going to have its bad episodes. They're what makes us appreciate the good episodes more, so I will just consider that a minor nitpick. Bottom line, Tiny Toons Adventures is not just a great Looney Tunes spinoff, it's a great cartoon by itself. It helped make animation respected again, and it showed the world how to make a good Looney Tunes tribute. With the success of Tiny Toons, Warner Bros. Wanted more shows like it, so Animaniacs was eventually created. Animaniacs contained all the elements that made Tiny Toons great, except that it mainly starred original characters and rarely featured the Looney Tunes characters. This show, however, was more written with adults in mind and featured more humor that would fly over kids' heads. So, if this show contains what makes Tiny Toons good and adds on to it, this means this show is going to be amazing, right? Well, it's okay. Before you pull out badly drawn guns, let me explain. I'll start with the negatives of Animaniacs. For starters, people claim that it's the most faithful tribute to Looney Tunes. I can see where they're coming from, but I can't help but to disagree. You see, Looney Tunes had a huge cast of characters, so this show tried to follow that and make several new characters themselves. The problem is, a lot of their characters are, how do I put this? Terrible. These characters include the Hip Hippos. I don't even know why anyone would come up with these two characters. All they are fat hippos that sing opera. That's it. There is nothing else to their character. Oh, and they're not funny. At all. Then there is Chicken Boo. Hey, I have an idea for a one-shot cartoon. Let's have a giant chicken become an actor, and then everybody finds out in the end that he's a chicken. Good idea. Only, let's turn it into a cartoon series. Let's use the giant chicken, put him in different situations, and just have the same unfunny punchline in every cartoon he's in. Genius, right? No! Next, there is Mindy and Buttons. I hate these two more than I hate Elmira from Tiny Toons. Like Chicken Boo, it's the same cartoon over and over again, but just in different situations. Buttons has to take care of Mindy, Mindy escapes from her backyard, Buttons now needs to save Mindy, Buttons gets hurt several times, Mindy somehow magically gets back to her home, and Buttons gets abused by his owners for supposedly not doing what they told him to do. I'll admit, it's funny watching Buttons get hurt in the first cartoon these two were in, but after the 17th time he gets hurt, I'm like, okay, this really isn't funny anymore. I'm starting to feel sorry for the poor dog. And I only get more angry because Mindy isn't worth saving. All she does is walk around, make baby noises, keeps calling her mom, lady, and asking, why? Just let this witch die, Buttons! Anyway, the Mindy and Buttons cartoons are just, ugh. There were also the Kaboom cartoons. Again, let's make the same cartoon with the same joke over and over again. I get it. Teenage girls are evil. Please move on. Finally, there's the Goodfeathers. Okay, let's take the movie Goodfellas, tone it down for kiddies, and make them pigeons. That's genius, right? No. Seriously, that feels more like a pun in a Rocky and Bullwinkle episode than it does a cartoon series. The next negative I have about Animaniacs is the format. This show has several cartoons that vary in length in each episode, and it has little skits to fill in the gaps. So, this show feels more like an animated sketch show than it does a Looney Tunes-esque show. Just a minor nitpick. However, despite my negatives, this show has really good positives. Despite the bad characters, this show has really good characters as well. The Warner siblings are freaking hilarious. Their cartoons are hit and miss a lot of the time, but when they're good, they're really good. Pinky and the Brain? Come on, do I even need to talk about how great these two are? I can see why they got their own spin-off show. Then, there's my favorite character of this whole show, Slappy Squirrel. The idea of a retired cartoon character is just freaking genius. She is so faithful to Looney Tunes characters that I wouldn't be surprised if she was a character that the boys from Termite Terrace actually had on the drawing board. Not much else to say, but she's Slappy. Other good characters include Rita and Runt. I'm a musical fan, so there's no doubt I would love these two. Bottom line, Animaniacs may have its faults. Its terrible, horrible faults. But it also has its positives, which make up for the bad cartoons starring the bad characters. I do prefer Tiny Toons, but Animaniacs is still a great show that I never get tired of, if I'm watching the characters I like from it. I didn't watch this show because I was too busy watching the actual Looney Tunes at this time it was airing, so I'm only basing my opinions on this show based off the little I've seen of it on YouTube. Okay, so this show is about Granny, Tweety, and Sylvester, and they're detectives. Okay? Anyway, despite the odd idea, this show didn't seem that bad. It has lots of slapstick and was written by writers who worked on Tiny Toons and Animaniacs, so you know the humor is good. However, the Tweety and Sylvester cartoons aren't my favorite of Looney Tunes, so I don't like the idea of a whole show all about them. However, that's just me. If you love the Tweety cartoons, then this show is for you. And I might watch it from time to time if I'm bored and I'm in the mood for a laugh. Next, there was Duck Dodgers. This show is about Daffy Duck starring as his famous character, Duck Dodgers, as he and his eager young space cadet, played by Porky Pig, fight off against the Martians in this space opera comedy. This show has been praised by Looney Tunes fans due to its great writing, having Daffy as the main star, and for its numerous guest stars. To me, I feel that's what brings this show down. For starters, this show is broken into two 11-minute cartoons per episode, with the occasional 22-minute long episode. I just don't agree with that format. Looney Tunes is meant to be 7 minutes long, not 11 minutes long. This leads to a lot of semi-slow paced cartoons that focus mostly on dialogue humor. Looney Tunes might have been known for dialogue, but it mostly used slapstick for its jokes because the cartoons were inspired by silent comedians. Then there is Daffy starring in this show. Daffy is my favorite Looney Tunes character, so what could possibly go wrong with him having his own cartoon show? Well, they made Daffy brain dead. Yes, I credit this show for creating the brain dead Daffy. When are modern animators going to learn that Daffy isn't supposed to be stupid? He can be either crazy or a jerk, not an idiot. Sheesh. So, you think with all that I said about this show, you would probably think that I hate it. But I don't. I actually like it. Granted, it feels nothing like a Looney Tunes related show, but it works well as a show by itself. For starters, the writing is really, really good. I swear, some of the best writing I've heard in a modern cartoon. Next, the fact that this show is a Looney Tunes related thing that doesn't star or even feature Bugs Bunny is shocking to me. For years, Warner Brothers has treated Bugs as the face of the Looney Tunes, so it was a turn of events not seeing him in something Looney Tunes related. Third, this show was also made more for adults than it was for children. Here's just a short list of the guest stars they got on this show. Tom Jones, Ed McMahon, Kelly Ripa, Dom DeLuise, and Burt Reynolds. Your ears weren't kidding you, folks. Finally, this show just feels like it has Warner Brothers written all over it. Even though it doesn't feel like Looney Tunes, it has that kind of zany and witty humor that Warner Brothers is known for when it comes to comedies outside of Looney Tunes. So, Duck Dodgers may be a show that fails as a Looney Tunes show, but as a show by itself, it's an underrated gem. I'm sure this show would have been just as good if it didn't feature any Looney Tunes characters. Next, we move on to... No, please, Zeus, spare me! Anyway, this show takes place in the far distant future in a city, and these things are the descendants of the Looney Tunes, and they are superheroes that protect the city from villains. How the heck did they become superheroes? Your guess is as good as mine, and mine is that they ordered superpowers from Acme. Anyway, the positives are... There are no positives for this show. There is nothing but negatives. The first negative is the characters. I freaking hate these guys. They're characters that think they're the Looney Tunes, but they're not, and that freaking ticks me off. Tiny Toons had this too, but at least in Tiny Toons, they were mentored by the Looney Tunes and had other traits that made them different. These things are just insults. I swear, I feel like I'm being slapped by these characters watching them act like Looney Tunes characters. Another thing I hate about them is the voices. They don't sound like the actors are imitating the Looney Tunes characters. They sound like the actors are imitating other actors imitating the Looney Tunes characters. Jason Marsden, Kevin Michael Richardson, and Rob Paulson are great voice actors, but this is not their best work. Another reason this show fails is, if these things are the descendants of the Looney Tunes, then how come other characters that act like Looney Tunes characters in this show are human? I'm not kidding. There's this one character named Mr. Leghorn who's a billionaire and acts just like Foghorn Leghorn. How in the truck did Foghorn Leghorn have a human descendant? Did Foghorn Leghorn get married to a female human? Thanks for putting disgusting images into my head, show! Another reason this show sucks is the fact that it's an action comedy. I myself love action comedies. However, there is one problem with that. Looney Tunes isn't supposed to be action comedy! It's supposed to be comedy, and that's it! This blend of genres for this show just makes it bipolar. One minute, it's trying to be funny, and then the next minute, it's trying to be serious. Make up your mind! Do you want me to act like I'm laughing, or make me act like I'm giving a crap? Then, there is the villains. I've seen the entire first season and bits and pieces of the second, and I don't remember any of the villains being interesting or cool in the first season. I got really ticked off when they used descendants of classic Looney Tunes antagonists in the second season because they tried to make the characters villains that weren't really villains in the first place. In one episode, Porky Pig's descendant was a villain. I'm not kidding. Truck this show. Why does it exist? Why was it created in the first place? Bottom line, this show is nothing more than a big stab in the gut to Looney Tunes fans. It's not as bad as the Looney Tunes show because that one tricked me into thinking that it was actually going to be good, but I knew right off the bat that this show wasn't going to work. No wonder why I stopped watching Saturday morning cartoons when this show came on. And there are my thoughts on Looney Tunes spin-offs. To me, the very idea of spin-off shows for Looney Tunes just doesn't sound like a good idea. I believe that the classics are good enough that animators don't need to make shows about them. However, there are some shows that work because they just use Looney Tunes as an influence. This is where shows like Tiny Toons and Animaniacs work. Then, there are those animators that use Looney Tunes characters as a disguise to try to make their own crappy ideas come to life. This is where shows like Loonatics Unleashed and the Looney Tunes show fail. I'm just glad Warner Brothers has had the guts to try not to kill the Looney Tunes like they're killing Scooby-Doo and Tom and Jerry. As hard as they might try, you just can't beat the classics. I'm Ben, and I'm signing out. I'm gonna go get me a pet Tasmanian devil.